Here are two of the poppers that I put the tin foil on, and actually it's aluminum, and I scribed in the variety of scales, smaller hooks, smaller scales. So these are both ready for a coat of sealer. You need the sealer on top of the shiny aluminum for the paint to stick to, otherwise the paint can fall off. So I'm going to put a coat of sealer on both of these. This one I've already painted the red face. You can actually wait till just before the first coat of epoxy to do that. You can see I've also cut the eyes out. Some of these eyes, they got some funny angles, and when you get a Forstner bit in there, they can take quite a bit out. And what I like to do is I like to put LePage's wood filler and bring that eye up a little bit so it doesn't look like it's diving into the head. So I'll do that prior to putting the first coat of epoxy on when I put the eyes in. So the next time you see these hooks, I'm only going to do two. I actually need this lure for a fishing trip I'm going on. I'm going to give it probably a dark green back, the lighter green side. There's a number of fish in the ocean that have kind of that color. And then when you see these next, they'll be just prior to the first coat of epoxy. The painting is complete. There's a two-tone green for this smaller popper, and this one's got a tricolor. It's got an orange and a pink stripe in the center and dark red back. That's probably more for something like a Wahoo. They love pink, and they love things that go fast in the water. So now it's time to put the eyes in. What I normally do is I will test fit the eyes. So these are living eyes, and this one is called Wind. That's the yellow one. And I try to pick the color of the eye that fits with the lure, and I just pop it in there to make sure it fits. You don't want to be putting glue in there to find out, oh gosh, it's a bit too big. So that one fits just fine, so that's a good thing. That's a 15mm eye. And this one is an 18mm eye. And it pops in there very easily, which is great. Now, one of the problems when you cut these eye sockets out is it's very angled. You can see that it's not a natural angle, but because it's a popper, you got to have that wide front face. And so what you have to do is you have to use a Forstner bit, but it's on an angle, and it doesn't like to do that. So what you end up with is a rather deep cut here and a shallow cut here. I'll show you it more on this one as well. This one is quite deep. Very, very hard to do. You can get pretty deep pretty quick. Now, normally what I would do with my eyes is I would use something like Gorilla super glue, and you put a little bit of super glue on the wood, put the eye on, 20 minutes later you come back, flip it over, do the other one. But super glue won't help me fix this problem, because I want my eye to be a little bit farther out. If you put them in like this, they look a little sunken. I'm going to take this one out of the way for the moment, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So this is LePage's plastic wood filler. This is great stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some in the eye socket and put the eyeball on top of that. Now the wood filler will glue itself to the eyeball, and because this is non-water based, it's solvent based, it'll be pretty much done in about 15 to 20 minutes. Now once I get that plastic wood in there, I've got to be very careful that I don't push too hard, because the plastic glue, of course, or the plastic wood is well, semi-liquid. It's kind of thicker than honey, and if you push too hard, you just push it all out. So you got to be a little careful. So let's give this a try. Now, previous to filming, I did mix this. It comes with quite a bit of liquid on top, and you got to mix it up and down every time you use it. So what I do is I get a screwdriver like I've got here, and I get a bit of a tail on, and I start to put that around there. And I might do this one more time. See how I'm kind of daubing it around. So then when I put the eye in, I'm going to adjust it a little bit with the tip of the scalpel, but not too much. Like I say, that will squish out the wood filler, and the eye will sink. Okay, we're ready to go. Now, another little note is that this eye has a bit of a pointy part that goes forward. Now, if it does go down, you can kind of scoot it back up again. Now this area around the eye, that's caused by that digging that hole with the Forstner bit at an angle, because you can't get it go straight in, and sometimes the Forstner bit wanders a little bit. So this one is maybe not quite as up as much as I want. So what I can do is I can wait a few minutes as it starts to dry, and then pull it back up a little bit when it gets a little bit harder. So this other one here has kind of the same problem. So we'll do exactly the same. So this one is an 18mm eye, and this one here is a 15mm eye. I do have some as high as 20mm. That's for some of my bigger lures. I'm putting quite a bit more filler in this one. I'm hoping I have enough. But again, you got to be very careful. If you have too much and you push down too hard, it will in fact squish out the sides of the eyes, and then you have to take that out after it's hardened, and you might even have to paint over it a little bit. Another eyeball. I guess it's not really an eyeball, it's more of an eye. Again, with a little pointy part forward. See, it's starting to squish. Now this one has turned out much better. You may or may not be able to see that it bulges out a little bit, which is good. That's what a normal fisheye does. And what I'm going to have to do is, when this hardens, I will take that excess off. Matter of fact, I'll take it off right now. Take off most of it. Taking it off when it's hard is really difficult. Okay. Now the eye's moved a little bit, so we'll get back where it should be. Okay, so in about 25 minutes, I'll do that to the other side, and then we'll be done, and we'll be ready for our first coat of epoxy. Now, this one doesn't have a red face yet, but actually it's best to do that after you've done your first coat of epoxy, because it's, I don't know if anybody knows about doing Ukrainian Easter eggs, but what you do with them is you put on a layer of color and then you protect it. So what a layer of epoxy does, it protects all of your work to date. So if I was to put this paint on, which will be oil-based paint, and I make a mess, if the paint is on the wood, I would have a heck of a time removing that. But if it's on the epoxy, I have a chance of getting it off. I might need a little bit of alcohol, but I can do it. So I think it's actually better to put that red face on after the first coat. And you know what? You'll have at least one more coat, second coat of epoxy, so that will protect that red coat. So the next time you see this, it will have had one coat of epoxy, all the eyes on it, of course. You will see that the gills will have been painted, and the front has been painted, and it will be pretty much done. Here I am getting ready to put the gills on. You can see I've taped off the areas of the gills. Depending on how big the gills are, most often what you want to do is you want to put a little bit of red and maybe not cover up the entire gill. These gills are actually carved gills, so they're quite deep. You can also see that I've added side pins. Because this lure is probably more for Wahoo, I used a very shiny aluminum tape to make the side pins. This one, it has very, very shiny sides as it is, so I used a black matte, comes for putting on drawers and stuff, and so I used the black for this guy. And really what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small amount of paint and very carefully put it underneath this gill. I don't want to go too much because I'm going to have to take the tape off right away as well. There you go. There's your nice little patch of red for the gill. These two poppers are now done. They've had 2 coats of epoxy. You could put a third on, but anything with big teeth in the ocean or even in freshwater will be able to go to 2 or 3 coats of epoxy. It's tough, but sharp teeth are even sharper. So this is the one with the 18mm eyes, and I managed to pull them up a little bit. This one came up a little bit more. And I always put a little bit of sparkle on the tail, because when you're doing this, if there's sun out, it's like an ambulance going to a fire. It makes a lot of flashing, and in the ocean there is a lot of flashing. Anytime a fish kind of turns sideways, gets a bit of a glint off their side, boom, you got flashing happening. So these will not only kind of do this, but they'll glug and they'll clug and they'll do all kinds of things to imitate a wounded fish. So this one here has extremely shiny sides. Got the gills, of course, a little splash of red, and the black fins. And now notice that both of them have their red faces on. Now, one of the things I always have trouble with these type of lures is cleaning out the paint and the epoxy off the stainless steel. So when I try to do that, I inevitably nick the red paint on the face. So what I do lately is I take off any big chunks, but I leave it and I use a split ring on it, to attach the fluorocarbon leader, and that split rings, when you take it on and take it off a few times, it does take that stuff off. So that's my preference, rather than digging on it. You can of course clean off the tail and the center hooks, because you got a little bit more room there. So anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody for following me through this hook build. This one actually was requested by one of my viewers, subscribers actually. I make pretty darn good poppers, and I'm looking forward to trying these out. It's actually December 21 right now. I'll be going out on a tuna trip in January of 22, so we're talking 4 or 5 weeks, and this one is certainly going with me. The problem I have, and it's an unusual, it's an interesting problem, is that I have so many lures I can't fit them in my bags. So I'm gonna have to be a little bit selective. I can't take everything. So anyway, thank you again. I'm not sure what type of lure I'll build next. There's always something around the corner, so stay tuned, and anybody who's a subscriber, of course, will get a notification. Other than that, you're just gonna have to kind of look for new videos. Thanks again.